My trusty puppy. This little girl won't sit still. Relax. Relax. What's going on, guys? My mower does not start during a pandemic. What I'm going to talk about in this video is we're going to review how to diagnose this mower, and everything I'm going to talk about can be used universally to figure out anything that's wrong with your mower from starting, mostly. Or at least get you to the point where you're changing the right component and you're not just changing components haphazardly because everyone on YouTube says it goes. All right? So let's go into the different conditions. You can have a no start, no crank, or a crank and no start. So let's deal with the issue I initially had when I was working on this mower, which is a crank but no start. So in trying to figure out what's going on, I needed to make sure I had fuel going to the motor, and I also had good air. So I took the filter out, checked the port, make sure that it was all clean of debris or anything. That was all good. The filter was good. Then I wanted to make sure that I had fuel. Best way to do that is have a buddy, or if your arms are long enough, crank the motor while this line is out and have a little cup here and see if you got any fuel spewing out here. Okay? Do that and then you know your pump works. That's fairly simple. The next is you can also take off this portion of the line to make sure that this is also clear. And then you know that it's something that way. Now, if your mower's been sitting for like this season, like mine was, then it's more than likely clogged, and that's what I initially thought. But then I came to realize that after having taken apart my carb completely the second time, was that the butterfly was ripped off. It actually dropped. After I took it apart and took it out, it was just in pieces. So I since replaced my carb, which looks nice and shiny there. Right, you can see the new nice steel, not so new nice looking stuff around it. So you actually have to take off this manifold. There's some great videos on doing that, but you got to know how and when to do it. Okay, so that's that part. The other part is you can take out the spark plugs and crank the mower and ground it. Usually you could get a spark plug tester. Let me see if I got mine readily available. Where would it be? Looking through my junk. Still looking. Oh, this is my carb. And this is the piece that was broken. So this goes in here, and basically it's supposed to have another side, and so this was wobbling about. So that broke. That sucks. What are you gonna do? This is a spark plug tester. Inline tester. You connect it to your system as it says inline. You watch here, and it tells you whether or not you have spark. So those are the two things you want to check there to see if you have spark and fuel. If you have both, it should technically start. But usually those are two places you want to check when you're just getting going with a crank and no start condition. One of those is going to be bad. Right? Let's go to my problem now, which is I have a no start, no crank, no nothing. It doesn't come on. First place you want to check is your battery. Make sure you have a good source. So I checked my battery. I have 12 volts. Now my problem is a little bit more involved. Okay. Before we get to this, let's talk about wiring diagrams. I know on YouTube, a lot of people, they like to just, tell you, hey, do this and do this, and then you'll be fine. But to me, a good wiring diagram is going to be key. You can call your company, the company you got the mower from, and you can ask them for the diagram for your mower. Okay, my mower is a Troy built 2006. It was not available on their website. So I called their technical department and they sent me this via email. Okay? It's good to have because I'm going to be referencing this, and let's do that now. So we are talking about a no start, and this could be intimidating to look at. I understand that. But let's break it down for the things we care about right now, which is the mower starting. It's not starting, we care about it starting. So we have to start with the battery, okay? The battery is going to be your first, go-to. To reading any of these, you want to start with your power source. Voltage is like water. It flows through the system, and as it flows, the switches are going to be stopping points. So let's go through the flow. Here we have the ground going to ground. That's easy enough. And this red wire going to the solenoid. It's from the battery to the solenoid. Okay? Now, the only problem is that you might not know what you don't know. Right? Over here, there's a lot more business going on than just that nice little picture. That's what the engine wiring diagram. This is the mower's almost body harness, whereas this is the starting systems diagram. Okay? So this is the solenoid, which corresponds with SOL, right? This is your solenoid. And how does this work? This is just a relay. So as this wire energizes this coil, it pops up and basically makes a connection between your battery and your starter. Now this ground is actually case grounded, so the engine itself, which is what's connected to like over here, it is grounded over here. So easy way to check your starter is to jump from here to here. All right? If you know you have power here, that means that this is the problem. If you do not have any power to here and you jump it and it actually starts to crank, then that means that there's nothing wrong with your starter and the problem is over here. Okay? But it does not mean that it is your solenoid that's wrong. What I recommend is you actually test with like a multimeter this point over here, which is what we're going to do. Okay? So, but let's not go too quickly. Let's backtrack this. So when I'm diagnosing, I like to know some things first. The flow of the electricity and how the system is set up. Okay, so we have the solenoid. This is that little tab that I was talking about for the solenoid. It comes down here. This goes here. Now this hoop right here, almost this half circle, that means that the line goes over. It's not connected at this point. This is not a junction point. So we got to go almost under it. Then keep going. And then here, it splits. The voltage splits. PTO, if we go up and over, PTO, and then down, PTO switch. Then comes up, and then this point is called a node. This node is where it is actually a connection with this wire. So it splits off and goes to the PTO, and then it comes to the brake switch. This is a normally open circuit. This is normally closed. That's what this lines indicate. So when the plunger is pressed, this makes connection. Okay? Then comes down, over again, goes to the right neutral, which is your handle, and then goes to your left neutral, right? And then goes over. Basically, we're following this orange line. Goes over, connects again, goes back over to here, and then to this funny thing, which is the key switch where it says S. Now, why is S important? Now, how I showed you the path, that's just the path, which is an important path because this is actually the path for starting your mower. So basically, we've identified all of these specific components that make up starting your mower. Because what is this? This is called, for the key switch, this is called your solenoid. This is your, this is the contact in your starter switch. Let me pause it so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, I paused, brought it out. So this is the key switch, right? As I turn the key, which I can't do with one hand, but as I turn the key, contact is made between these different posts, okay? So let's look at that for a minute, because that's important. I'm trying to make sure you can see the letters. You see how it says B, G, M, L, S? B is your battery, S is your solenoid, G is your ground, L is lights, M is magneto, which is your ignition, spark, right? Goes to your coils. The wire going here to your S, when you turn the key, S and the battery, they connect, right? I'm just making a mess now. But S and B, they connect. You turn this key, those two connect and energizes the system. So the voltage actually goes from the battery this way and then goes through all of that. Now, all of these switches that we referenced, this, and this, they're all running basically in series. This is a series circuit. What does that mean? That means that it's literally like a water and these are like dams. And if the switch is not closed, they stop there. So in testing anything, you see where the voltage comes in and then you see where the voltage comes out. What does that allow you to do? It allows you to make sure that the voltage is at the proper line, as well as going across the component works. Okay, so how do we do that? So we can connect this switch back and determine which one of these wires is supposed to have 12 volts. There's another easier way, which I'm going to show you in a moment, but this line, this red and black line, should have 12 volts on it. Okay, so we could test that. Then we could check for continuity in this circuit, or sorry, in this component. We could check the continuity and make sure that the voltage is allowed to go through. Okay, so how I was taught in school, voltage is like water. amperage is like pressure, and resistance is like resistance to flow. Okay? So I don't want to get too much into like Ohm's law and Kirchhoff's voltage law. Just trying to keep it simple right now. So basically, we're going to check to make sure that I got battery voltage here. Then I'm going to check this switch to make sure it's good. Then I'm going to check my safety switches, which is what these are. Okay. There's one other that, if you notice, is not on here because it has to actually be grounded to stop the flow, and that's your seat switch, which is over here. Okay, so that's another leg of the battery switch. So a lot of stuff goes on here. I'm curious about the battery switch. I might look at that as my first switch. Well, after confirming that I got voltage and continuity in this. So let's get to it. Okay guys, so I've taken all of this apart so we can see what we're doing a bit better. Okay, so we first want to check the battery. Let's make sure the battery is good. So one lead on ground, the other one on positive. Don't mind the color of that, that's on ground. But we have 12 volts when I actually touch it properly. Okay, 12 volts, okay? Now, if we look at the diagram, we see that the 12 volts is at the battery, and now we have to go to the switch, which is here. Just pops out of here. This is what it looks like. I've seen other YouTubers, and you know, they talk about testing the switch, but you actually have to test more than that. You have to know that the line going to the switch is good. Just because there's continuity able to go through doesn't mean that that voltage is making it from the battery to here to go through it. Hope that makes sense. I'll make sense of it in a minute. So, what I said before was, if we look at this again and it's upside down, this has got battery over here, and this is your solenoid. This is your magneto. Basically, when you turn the key, this powers your ignition system. Okay, that's your lights, ground. This is the solenoid. So what should happen is we want to follow the voltage, the path of voltage, because what I did was when I tested here, this tab, I'm not getting any power here. So it would seem like it's the solenoid that's the problem, but it's one of the safeties per what we saw on the diagram. One of the safeties that's in series is not letting power get to here. So that's what I got to figure out. All right. But we want to follow the voltage and see where it's stopping, right? Where the plug is. I don't believe in checking this first. I believe in checking the line, the actual wire, because there's 5 million things that could have happened. It could have corroded. Something in here is bad. It's some animal ate through one of the wires. It's a myriad of things. I want to point out something very important. Before me, I noticed that someone did some fiddling now that I've taken this apart, right? They did some fiddling. It's soldered good. It has a soldered joint. It's shrink wrapped. That's nice. But the problem, even though this looks so good, the problem with it is that here is supposed to be a 20 amp fuse. And if we notice on here, because this is what, a red and black wire, that red and black is the fuse. So someone had an issue before And instead of putting back a 20 amp fuse, they didn't, basically. But that's for another time to deal with. The other thing they did was they also jumped the wires. So more than likely this was normally closed. This goes to here, another safety switch, plunger style, and they jumped it. What does that mean? That means that probably doesn't work, so I gotta get another one of that. I want to keep in mind that this is all through a pandemic, so whatever I figure out, I gotta figure it out without buying anything. So I'm more than likely gonna have to do something similar because I already know it's a safety. If you test here and you're not getting 12 volts, it's a safety. If you test here and there's 12 volts and there's power here, or power on one leg, the leg going from the battery to here, and nothing here, that means it's your solenoid. You could also energize this, and if you hear a click, because something is supposed to move, it's probably good. If you don't hear a click, it's bad. But it's a long-winded way of saying I gotta check this for 12 volts. I should have 12 volts somewhere in this line, which gets to our multimeters. Let's talk multimeters. There's two types of multimeters. There's this one, and then there's this one. You can also use a test light. Let me grab that real quick. I thought I had it. It's in the other shop. We're gonna have to continue on with the multimeters. For the multimeter purposes, I have this one that has a different connector on it. I just have two because this one, even though it's a bigger screen, this is actually cheaper. This is kind of crap. This is a manual scale. This is an auto scaling. So you just set it on voltage and it'll read whatever the voltage is. This one, you got to be careful. You want to set it to the voltage or the notch one higher than you're trying to test. If you're trying to test 120 volts, you got to set it to 200 because there's significant digits that are different. And if you set it too low, you won't even get a reading and make you think that it's blown, but you just don't know how to use it properly for a manual, okay? The next is alligator clips. I work by myself, so something like this, focus, alligator clips is helpful for me. Let's go to actually doing this test. So we want to see the flow of the voltage. So I'm going to set out, well, we want to see the flow of the voltage and we want to start where the flow of the voltage starts. Huh? To do that, I'm going to just put my little probe there and test. I can't do this with one hand, this portion. Maybe I can. Oh, well, let's go back to how you're supposed to know which one to plug it into. So let me pull out where's that thing? I lost it. Oh, here we go. So if we look at how this plugs in, we can correspond this to the picture. Well, kind of the format, the layout of the prongs, right? So if I plug this in here, I know that this one is the battery, this lower one. So this red and black wire, right? That's if you don't have the diagram and you need to do this on the fly, right? So if I test that red and black wire, oh, and these little needle things, they come in great handy to connect up to your multimeter so you can kind of probe wires, okay? So let's do that there. I can't do this with one hand. This is so difficult. right, let me use this probe because those are big enough to get in there. Ugh. All right, so I have this connected here, and that is on ground. And look at this. It's 12.7 volts on this wire. What does that tell me? That tells me that power is allowed to go into the switch. So let's look at the switch. This is battery, this is ground. This is going to be a little difficult. 1 second, let me set this up. So let's check the switch. So we saw that we have voltage at basically, let me grab this. Can't see with the light. Where am I? This point here. This point has power. Okay? But we have to make sure that the power can travel from here to here. So we have to check that, and how we check it is through a continuity test. Okay? So one lead goes there. Basically, well, I don't really need these right now because I got 2 hands. But basically, when you touch these two together, it makes a beeping noise. So if I touch here, well, actually I do kind of need this. Okay, let's put this back in because I don't have 3 hands. These are easy to connect back up. That's why I like these. If they're both here, so you hear no beeping. So basically when you turn the key, this will complete the circuit. So let's do that. Okay. I like to do it a few times to make sure that there's no intermittent start situation, but I don't get that when the mower does run. So we know that this is good for at least getting power to that. We can check the others, but I don't care. I'm trying to start the mower right now, but you can use the same principles. And I'll show on the diagram the other contact points, like going between stuff. Like sometimes you got to go to ground and magneto and things like that, depending on how your coils is set up, whether or not it's open to ground or closed to ground. But that's not for now. Right now, we know that this works. This will at least send power to the safeties to allow voltage. Now, I'm not going to test every component this way. It's easier to check the safeties and then afterwards go through checking the others. Actually, let me go get one of the safeties and I'll show you how to check it. Be right back. We have the brake switch here, right? I took out the brake switch. In YouTube world, that was like 0.0 seconds. In my world, I had to take out the battery, go from the back, jump between the back and the front to get that out. I'll show you on the mower in a moment where the brake switch is. I wanted to check it first after this switch because experience from these mowers, Troy-built mowers, they like to go a lot at the brake switch. So I figured it might as well check it first. This is it. This is a plunger style, and you plunge it, it closes the circuit. Now, how do I know that? Because we followed our wiring and it said it, right? What I also did was I also checked the voltage here. Stabbed it a bit, which is hard to pick up on video, but I stabbed it to make sure that I had voltage. So the voltage is going there. So that means to me that all this other junk is good, right? So you can do shortcuts like that. In explaining it, it takes longer, but this whole process really took me about 20 minutes to go through. but that's because I had a map of what I had to do, right? As you gain more experience, like, people that know cars, they know that, all right, your suspension on a Honda is going to be 14 and 17 millimeter, sockets. These are just things you develop over time. But for this, I have to check 3 different points. You see that there? Brake switch, 3 different points. AB is normally closed. CD, EF is normally open, right? So when I push on this, it closes. How do we know which one's AB? Because that's confusing. If we look here, hopefully it's picking up in the camera. It says NC. Focus, no, doesn't like there. If you don't see it, trust me. Now we could confirm this by doing a test. If I push this on this, and all these switches are going to be tested using continuity. Okay, so we'll just tap this. See, it's normally closed because I could touch it and I don't have to push on the plunger. Okay, so let's check this. Now, nothing happens. Wait for it. Okay, just completed the circuit. So that's a good side. And that's a good side. So I want to point out something I noticed in taking this off, which is why you can't always go off of something is bad because of someone else's experience or because someone on YouTube said it's bad. The connector that goes to here, it was filthy. It took me like 10 up to 20 minutes just to get this off, right? I had to pry, I had to use my screwdriver, my flathead, just to get it off. It was so corroded. So I used some brake clean, and I feel like it was actually the connector itself that was the problem, because this is good. And I don't see any other problems. So I'm going to put this back together, but I have a sneaky suspicion that it was just dirty. Let's put it back together and see what we get. All right, hold on. Okay, guys, so I have this, I have the brake safety switch back in, and I've confirmed I got voltage going past it. So technically, this should start up. I've disabled my seat safety switch. The only thing you really got to do for that is, this is spring-loaded, so I just disconnect that. On Troy Builds and Cub Cadets, you can just pop that out, and you don't have to sit on the mower to start it. All right? So I'm going to put this all back together and see if it starts. It's a little bit of stuff to do. I have to get the switch back in, and I have to get the wires all back together. All right, so give me a second. Okay, so we have it semi back together. Right now, I just want to see if I could get it to crank, because I'm seeing voltage at the solenoid. So let's try and start this puppy. started, but sounds like crap. I think at this point it's just maintenance. I haven't started it all year. So what I'm gonna do is change up spark plugs. What else? What else I'm gonna do? Change the spark plugs, change the oil, and also I have bad gas in there. So that's probably the main thing. So, but it's running, and that is for the most part how to go through your whole, diagnosing process. No crank, check your electrical system. No start, check gas, and also you need to check your spark. Worst case scenario, you might need to check your valves, but valves is more like if it's running sluggishly, then your valves might need adjusting. Normal go-to, I'm going to replace everything. Because for me, it wasn't actually the component that was bad on my brake switch. It was dirty. So I could have spent a whole bunch of money replacing a whole bunch of stuff when it was actually the connection. So in reality, sorry I wasn't able to show it. Hopefully this still helps someone. But basically the connection that goes to here, this was dirty, which is things you should check for. All right, so the wires, the components, and your source matters, but what I haven't really touched on much is the opposite side, because you have a power side, but you also have a ground side. The ground is very important, right? It's very, very, very important. But it's also very easy to check for and check up on. You just got to know where your grounds are, make sure they're clean. Just to give a little story, when I was back in my mechanic days, I put in an engine for a guy, and a few months later he came to me and said, my engine's not running. I'm like, okay, well, bring it to me. Give me $60. If I can't figure it out, you don't got to pay me. I think that's a pretty fair deal. And I'm like, have you been running the motor this whole time, the car? He said, yeah, and it just stopped working. And I'm like, all right, well, what'd you do? He said, I changed the battery and alternator 3 times. I'm like, maybe it's not your battery or alternator. And I said, just give me $60. He ended up selling me the car because he was like, look, I just want it gone. I don't want the headache. And what the problem was his ground. It took me 2 minutes to figure that out. I literally took off one of the grounds, sanded it, put it back on. I wouldn't even have charged the guy to do it, but it just goes to show that it's important to check these type of things. So grounds. There's going to be a ground here. There's also going to be a ground for your engine. And the easiest way to check that is put one on the positive and start touching portions of the motor. See if it has continuity. If it does, then you know your system is grounded. Okay? So basically, that's all I got here. Sorry guys, I got one more thing, and that's it. I'll conclude this video. It's getting too long as it is. I mainly was talking about the electrical system, but, and I mentioned the 3 things you need for getting the mower going and diagnosing and all of that. You need spark, air, fuel, but you also need those 3 to combine. How they combine is through compression of the piston or pistons going up and, mixing the whole show together. So how do you do that? Well, what you need to do is what's called a compression test. And what you do is you put a hose in here in lieu of the spark plug. I actually pulled out my kit to show you guys what it looks like. So this is the hose. These aren't expensive, this kit. This one might be a little bit more because this is a master kit. It's supposed to accommodate a large variety of different threads. But basically you put this in lieu of or in replacing of your spark plug. And when you do that, there's a coupler on the other end that goes in here, and you're going to essentially crank the motor for maybe about a 5-second count, and this gauge is going to go up. It goes up, it's going to stop and stabilize. If it goes down, that means that you're not holding compression. That means your rings are going or gone. If you have nothing, if there's zero, that means that you have no compression in that cylinder and the motor needs to be rebuilt. Okay, but in doing this test, you want to be careful. What you would normally do on a car is you would take out the fuel relay or the fuel fuse so that you don't flood the cylinder. On these mowers, I just recommend you taking out this hose, maybe by the carb, putting into a cup or back into the jug, like that, like the gas jug, and letting it go out that way while you crank it, so you don't get fuel in the cylinder. After you do that test, that'll confirm. You can look up the spec for your motor. Mine is a Briggs & Stratton, so the motor model number is right here for my mower. I would look this up, look up the compression spec, and then that would be my baseline. So, all right, that's it for this video. Please like and subscribe, comment, let me know what you think of these type of videos. This is like my first time doing this type. I'd really like you guys' input. All right? So, till next time, stay safe.